Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us. There are a few announcements. You've heard this before probably, but just in case, Swami Sarvadivananda, our head minister, plans to be with us for a visit from May 17th to May 19th. He will be available for private interviews and to offer spiritual instruction, including initiation, Diksha. He expects me to manage his calendar for the visit, so if you wish to talk with him or receive instruction, please email me right away. That can be done through the center's website. Please include your phone number. And for those of you who have emailed me and haven't heard from me yet, please be patient. You'll hear from me in the next day or two. We hope to have your center open for face-to-face gatherings of the congregation on May 1st. That is being evaluated every week. Read our e-newsletter or check the center's Facebook page or website for updates. Somebody's got their mic on, so we're getting feedback. When we do reopen, all classes and talks will continue to be offered over Zoom. So those of you who are not able to conveniently come to the center for whatever reason, you will still be included. We very much want to include you. To get the center ready for us to reopen, we'll have back-to-back Seva Saturdays on April 23rd and May 30th. On April 23rd and April 30th. So the next two Saturdays. Please plan to attend. A Seva Saturday runs from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can offer your service anytime during that window. There's a free lunch if you're here at noon 30. So that's two Seva Saturdays, this coming Saturday, the 23rd, and then the following Saturday, the 30th. And the first Sunday in May is May 1st. And that's when we'll be reopened. We plan to be reopened.
So you said the 23rd of this month?
23rd and 30th, yes.
23rd and 30th at 10 p.m.
Oh, I'm sorry, say it again, please.
What time open?
We start the Seva Saturday at 10 a.m. and the window for offering your service is any time from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And if you're here at lunchtime, there's a free lunch.
Okay.
This note has been said before. Apparently not anyone has responded, But on April 24th, at the Trabuco Monastery, there will be a final memorial service for Swami Yogeshananda. If you wish to attend, please let the head Swami there, Swami Dhyana Yogananda, know right away. You can call him at the Trabuco phone number, which is available online, of course. The best time to call him is 11:30 Atlanta time, which is 8:30 Trabuco time, 8:30 a.m. Trabuco time. And that's when they'll be at breakfast. So that's the best time to reach him. So are there any other announcements that I might have made or should have made that I didn't think to make?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
One question. Since we cannot go to attend the ceremony, will it be recorded on Zoom?
I don't know, dear. You'll have to call and ask them. I don't know the answer.
Oh.
I don't know whether they're using that technology or not.
Yes. Thank you.
So, as was said early on, it is Easter. May you all have a joyous Easter. In Christian terms, he is risen. Cause for great celebration. Jai Yesu Deva. Jai Yesu Deva. I'm going to read you 2 verses of a Christian hymn, a Christian Easter hymn. Though Christ 1,000 times in Bethlehem be born, if he's not born in thee, thy soul is still forlorn. Though Christ 1,000 times in Bethlehem be born, if he's not born in thee, thy soul is still forlorn. The cross on Golgotha will never save thy soul. That the cross in thine own heart alone can make thee whole. O cross of Christ, I take thee into this heart of mine, that I to my own self may die and rise to thy life divine. Whate'er thou lovest man, thou to become thou must. That to become, whate'er thou lovest man, that too become thou must. God, if thou lovest God, dust, if thou lovest dust. Go out, God will come in. Die thou and let him live. Be not, and he will be. Wait, and he'll all things give. O cross of Christ, I take thee into this heart of mine, that I to my own self may die and rise to thy life divine. As you'll see, that very much relates to the subject this morning, which is, what can you expect from meditation? April has been a month for the study of Raja Yoga, a spiritual path often called the yoga of meditation. As a Raja Yogi, you use ancient, proven spiritual techniques to calm your body, quiet your mind, and gain control of your attention. Regular, daily practice of Raja Yoga increases your ability to concentrate and may lead to meditation. This meditation can unite you with the divine presence, the source of your being, and liberate you from the cycle of rebirth and death. So this morning we'll talk about what can you expect from meditation. But before we go ahead, are there any comments or questions that anyone would like to make about what's been said so far? Anything at all?
What's the difference between having Ramakrishna devotees and Easter Sunday?
It's understood that Sri Ramakrishna, is of the form of all gods and goddesses. That there is one, only one, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent divine being that takes form at different times, takes human form at different times. Krishna explains very clearly in the Gita why that's so. And so Easter Sunday, to anyone practicing Vedanta, as you know, Sri Ramakrishna practiced Christianity and realized Christ, was very inspired by the life of Christ and Mary. So this is a very important day for anyone practicing Vedanta because we celebrate every great gift from the divine,
Yes.
the great gift of liberation and salvation.
Is May 18th is a language barrier who can understand Bengali language? There is some language barriers, like a person who
Swami Sarvadivananda is Bengali.
Oh, great, awesome. Okay, so May 18th, 6 a.m. and
May 18th. Please, let's not take time this morning with questions about the Diksha. If you have questions about that, please contact me otherwise. We have only a limited time this morning. Thank you for your questions, but let's defer those about Diksha until you can call me on the phone. Okay, anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankar?
Yes, Bhagirath.
I was trying to connect some seemingly diverse thoughts because you said that this kind of study of Raja Yoga will liberate you from subsequent birth. On the other hand, Jesus Christ says, I'll be born again, reincarnation. And then Krishna says the same thing, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bhavata, whenever the religion is doomed, I'll be born again. So the point is that they do not get born unless there is a reason. They come not with an idea of being born alone, they come together with the idea of being born to serve something, to propagate something, to kindle something.
Yes, exactly. But any individual jiva, anyone who seems to be separate from that, may wish to take their hand, their offer of refuge, and no longer be a part of human form. This is what is meant to be liberated from the cycle of rebirth and death. The the divine person, the divine being, takes form by their own sweet will out of compassion for humanity, out of compassion for the children of man, as you just quoted Sri Krishna. And so, as it says in the evening hymn, Breaker of this world's chain, how great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. What does unchain us mean? Free us from the bonds of karma. Free us from our karma, and therefore release us from the cycle of rebirth and death. Thank you, Bhagarat. Anything else? All right. When you first start practicing meditation, what you experience is very much determined by what you want from meditation. Let me say that again. When you first start practicing meditation, what you experience is very much determined by what you want from it. To understand, listen to this, listen to yourself talking about it with a close friend. You may say, it makes me feel calmer, more relaxed, kind of more centered. And I see that some of the things I worry about all the time are not really that important. That's what I hear from a lot of people who talk about their early experiences of meditation or concentration. It makes me feel calmer, more relaxed. I kind of get more centered, and I can see that some of the things I worry about all the time are not really that important. This is splendid and auspicious. After you have practiced regularly with sustained attention for 2 or more years, you will become more efficient and effective in everything you do because your ability to concentrate has increased and improved. Now, why is that important? Well, first of all, it helps you with the master the game of life. You're more efficient. You're more effective. But if you're more efficient and more effective, that means you're less stressed. If you're less stressed, your mind is calmer, and it makes it easier to practice contemplation, concentration, and meditation. As a matter of fact, it becomes more attractive to you. So this is the first fruit, so to speak, of practicing contemplation, concentration, and meditation. To understand what I mean by contemplation, read Patanjali's 17th Sutra in Chapter 1 of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. You'll understand what's meant by contemplation. So if you continue for 2 or 3 years with regular practice, you may experience a living presence in your heart. This can be said to be the face of the Atman, that witness awareness, which is the core, the source, and the essence of your being. Remember, there is only one I in us, in the jiva. It is a reflection. As you practice, that reflection becomes clearer to you. The face of the Atman, that witness awareness, which is the core, the source, and the essence of your being. It may appear to you as formless, or as a form of the divine being that most appeals to you. Among us this morning are those that to whom Christ is that form of the divine being that most appeals. So this is a very special day for them, but that is, from our understanding, Christ is also the face of the Atman. The Atman is that in which, when Jesus said, I am the vine, ye are the branches, the vine is rooted in the Atman, the nameless, the formless. God the Father is just a way of talking about it. God the Son is then the face, the active principle of that. And the disciples, those who follow one of these great teachers, they are the branches, and the branches are not separate from the vine, and therefore not separate from that in which the vine is rooted. So I'll just say again, this divine presence may appear to you as formless or in a form of the divine being that most appeals to you. You may see light, hear sounds, or even speak with your chosen ideal. This is something that will happen during the first 2, 3, 4 years. Beyond this, there is the unexpected. In the silence, serenity, clarity, and peace of prolonged practice. Let me repeat that. Beyond this first 3 or 4 years, beyond this, there is the unexpected. In the silence, serenity, clarity, and peace of prolonged practice, reflections of who you truly are, unique aspects of your divinity may appear. It may become self-evident what Hafiz meant when he wrote that God sang to him, each soul completes me. Your inseparability from the divinity, from the divine presence, becomes clear to you. But all of your uniqueness as an aspect of that infinitude also becomes clear to you. Each soul completes me. These are the things that we'll discuss in more detail this morning. So before we go on to what Sri Ramakrishna said and what Viva Kananda said and what we may bring forward, any comments from your own wisdom, your own experience, or any concern or question that any of this gives rise to you?
What's the special connection between the month of April and Raja Yoga?
Oh, there's no special connection whatsoever, dear. It's just that each month we study one of the yogas. So it just so happens that this year, April and Raja Yoga, so next month we'll study Jnana Yoga. Then the following month we'll study Bhakti again, then Karma, then Raja, then Jnana. It just goes from month to month. So Bhaskar, there's no special connection between.
Understood. Thank you.
Brother Shankara.
Yes, Uma.
When I read first time the topic, these are the thoughts that ran through my mind. Everything you said about long-term meditation are exactly, to me, the end result of meditation. These are not what I call my expectations. To me, when I sit before God, or the image of God, my jnani, I get submerged Not, of course, in the beginning, but over time, when I sit there, my mind automatically falls into a kind of relaxed and very pleasant relaxation. And it's like an immersion in God, which I will compare to spiritual shower taking.
Yes.
Just like taking shower refreshes you and it makes you feel alive, awake. Similarly, meditation has this effect. So this is the only difference I'm making in this, in the approach to this subject. That these are not the things we should expect, but these are the end results of meditating. That's how I look at it.
All right, dear. I love the words automatically. Yes, as we do practice, as Vivekananda said, education is nothing more than the training of the nerves. When we train the nerves and we practice regularly and our nerves become sufficiently trained, it is automatic. We immerse that immersion.
Yes.
And then I like the word shower that you used. Relaxation, the relaxation. As Chaitanya says, meditation or the concentration is a bath for weary souls.
Oh,
Is a bath for weary souls. Bathing in his name, that bath for weary souls. Of course, Chaitanya's way is mantra meditation, chanting the name and the glories of the Lord. But it doesn't matter. In a sense, it doesn't matter what form of meditation we use. So I like very much what you've said. Yes. And in terms of expectation, Swami Prabhavananda's 4 instructions for meditation are these. The chosen ideal is you yourself, no different. Learn to feel that living presence. That living presence, that chosen ideal, however it may appeal to you or appear to you, is the Atman or Brahman in its active or ability. You can experience it. So that it is the active form of Atman. So learn to feel, experience that living presence. The second instruction for meditation is patience. Don't be impatient with yourself or with the process. It happens, as Swami Sridharananda says, slowly and slowly. You are retraining your nerves. You are replacing lower mental impressions, samskaras, with higher mental impressions. It happens slowly and slowly. So patience. The third instruction is perseverance. Do not be daunted. Do not be dissuaded from your practice by the concerns or entanglements of the world, by those occasional times when nothing seems to be happening. You persevere regardless. And the fourth instruction is expectation. This is Swami Prabhavananda's 4th instruction for meditation. Expectation. So first is learn to feel that living presence. Second, patience with the process. Third, perseverance with the practice. Fourth, expectation. You can expect these things to happen. Thank you, Uma. That was very eloquent what you said. So anything else from anyone before we go on? All right. Sri Ramakrishna said, "It is God's will that we should run about a little. Then it is great fun. God has created the world in play, as it were. This is called Mahamaya, the great illusion. Therefore, one must take refuge in the Divine Mother, the cosmic power itself. It is she who has bound us with the shackles of illusion. The realization of God is possible only when those shackles are broken." Now, Vivekananda said, that is why the Master came. That is why Christ came. Vivekananda said that's why Christ came in his talk, Christ the Messenger. He says it is why the Master came in more than one place, but especially in the evening hymn, Kandana Bhavana, translated into English, breaker of this world's chain or shackles. How great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. He also writes in that same
Okay,
hymn
good. Thank you.
that the Master is easy of access to us. So the realization of God is possible only when those shackles of illusion are broken. The Master continued, therefore, one must practice, one must propitiate the Divine Mother, the primal energy, in order to obtain God's grace. God himself is Mahamaya, who deludes the world with her illusion and conjures up all the magic of creation, preservation, and destruction. She has spread this veil of ignorance before our eyes. But as we know from the scriptures, from the teachings of the great ones, we are that. Tattvamasi. So the shackles of illusion are broken when we see clearly in our concentration and meditation that we are that. Someone has their microphone open and we're getting some background noise. So the Master continues, we can go into the inner chamber only when she lets us pass through the door. Living outside, we see only objects, but not that eternal being, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. She alone is the root of the universe. That primal energy has two aspects. I don't understand what's happening. Somebody has their mic open and we're getting background noise.
I think it's Jarna Chowdhury.
That's correct. That's what I say, Jama Cardbury.
Chowdhury, please mute yourself. Thank you. Nope, there it is again. Please.
I just muted them.
Okay.
I signed back in.
She alone is the root of the universe. That primal energy has two aspects, vidya and avidya. Avidya deludes, avidya conjures up lust and greed, which casts the spell of worldly desires. Vidya begets devotion, kindness, wisdom, and love, which lead one to God. Now, as Uma pointed out earlier, when we do practice contemplation, concentration, and meditation, we move automatically away from avidya, the entanglements of the world, and we move automatically into this immersion, this bath that washes away those things, and spontaneously we arise devotion, kindness, wisdom, and love, which lead one to God. This is from Sri Ramakrishna's advice to householders, August 13th, 1883. It's in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. How does all this relate to what we can expect from meditation? Here's the great open secret. The practice of meditation slowly and slowly erodes the power of avidya's delusion and allows you to awaken from its spell. Breaker of this world's chain, we adore thee whom all men love. Spotless, taking man's form, O purifier, thou art above the gunas three. Knowledge divine, not flesh, thou whom the cosmos wears a diamond at its heart. Let us look deep in thine eyes. This is the process of meditation. Let us look deep in thine eyes. They are bright with the wisdom of God, Vidya. They are bright with the wisdom of God, which can wake us from Maya's spell. Let us hold fast to thy feet, treading the waves of the world to safety. Meditation also spontaneously and automatically gives rise to the vidya that begets devotion, kindness, wisdom, and love, which lead you to God. Why? Because it stills the thought waves of your mind and allows your true original nature to be seen. Your true original nature is that Atman. What are avidya and vidya? The root, as we see in English, is vid. Vid, we see it in video, vision, and words like that. It comes right down to us. Seeing. So avidya, not seeing, vidya, seeing. Before we go on to Swami Vivekananda's explanation of all of this, is there anything more in the way of comment or question? We have plenty of time. Please, anything that you would like to say from your own wisdom or experience, or any concern or question you'd like to raise.
In Sanskrit, Ved is the root. Ved means to know. And that's how the word Vedas came. Ved, from Vedas, that is to be known. So it's saying yes, internally, to know from inside.
Yes.
That's Vedas, Ved.
Very good, dear. Thank you. Anything else from anyone? All right, dears. Here is Swami Vivekananda's explanation of how this process of contemplation, concentration, and meditation works to still the thought waves of the mind. The science of Raja Yoga proposes to give us a means of observing the internal states. The instrument is the mind itself. The power of attention, when properly guided and directed toward the internal world, which will always, the power of attention, when properly guided and directed toward the internal world, will analyze the mind and illumine facts for us. The powers of the mind are like rays of light dissipated. When they are concentrated, they illumine. This is our only means of knowledge, concentration. The mind is scattered, we are ignorant. The mind gathered and concentrated offers us knowledge. Everyone is using it, both in the external and in the internal world, but for the psychologist, the same minute observation, that's not right, the same what is that word? The same observation has to be directed toward the internal world, which the scientific man directs to the external. And this requires a great deal of practice. From our childhood upwards, we have been taught only to pay attention to things external, but never to things internal. Hence, most of us have nearly lost the faculty of observing the internal mechanism. To turn the mind, as it were, inside, stop it from going outside, and then to concentrate all its powers and throw them upon the mind itself in order that they may know its own nature, analyze itself, is very hard work. Yet that is the only way to anything which will be scientific. That is the only way to anything which will be a scientific approach to the subject. What is the use of such knowledge? In the first place, knowledge itself is the highest reward of knowledge. And secondly, there is also utility in it. It will take away all our misery. So he says, first, knowledge is its own reward. We're wiping out ignorance and arriving at knowledge, and that itself is rewarding. But secondly, there is a utility in it. It takes away all our misery. When by analyzing his own mind, man comes face to face, as it were, with something which is never destroyed, something which is by its own nature eternally pure and perfect, he will no more be miserable, no more unhappy. I'm going to repeat that. When, by analyzing his own mind, man comes face to face, as it were, with something which is never destroyed, something which by its own nature is eternally pure and perfect, he will be no more miserable, no more unhappy. All misery comes from fear, from unsatisfied desire. Man will find, and by observing and analyzing one's own mind and seeing that which is never destroyed, eternally pure and perfect, man will find that he never dies, and then he will have no fear of death. When he knows that he is perfect, he will have no more vain desires, and both these causes being absent, there will be no more misery, there will be perfect bliss, even while in this body. Now, the Swami made some very strong and very powerful promises there. There must be some reaction. What is yours? What is it that you hear that stimulates something from your own experience, something for you to share with us? Or is there any concern or question that this gives rise to you or in you that needs some clarification or satisfaction?
Hari Om Shankara ji.
Hari Om Balaji.
Is Vivekananda, even though he's starting saying it's about mind, but he's talking about a purified mind where you can, face to face, you come across with the consciousness. Am I right?
Yes, but the purified mind is a mind in which the thoughts are still. There are at least very much reduced vrittis in the citta, disturbances or vibrations in the mind stuff. This is the pure mind. You can only have this condition when the mind has been purified. And this is why it takes long, patient, persevering practice. It is, and this is why he says it's hard work. But yes, it is the pure mind. You're absolutely right, Balaji.
Okay.
Hi, this is Tom. I'll say something. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
please. Yes, can hear you fine.
So in my experience, everything he says is true about end of misery, end of suffering, end of fear of death. That's all true. But in my experience, certainly it's only temporary. It's only very temporary, brief periods of time that I experience that absolute freedom from fear and misery. And my expectation that I would experience that permanently has led to some disappointment in the past. And if anybody experiences it permanently, I want them to tell me about it right away. And nobody's ever said that, so I'm waiting.
Tom, I encourage you to have a conversation with Swami Sarvadivananda while he's here.
I will then. I will have that conversation if he wants to talk to me, because I know
Of course he would want to talk with you.
Okay. Well, then
someone who
definitely
practices,
I'll do it.
someone who practices as much as you do is a gem as far as he's concerned.
I'd love to talk to him, and that's the question I'll ask him: has he experienced a
Oh,
total.
just tell him what you said about your own experience,
Yeah.
and then listen to what he says in response.
Uh,
Right? He
So-
won't answer you. His vows prevent him from answering you.
if I ever get into a state of permanent freedom from suffering and fear of death and peace, I'll tell everybody about it because I want to spread the good news
Well,
that it's actually possible and that it happened to me, or at least that's the way I see
what
things.
what Swami Vivekananda says is that it is possible, but that it is a very long road. And many songs and hymns and poems have been written about what a long and winding road it is.
Yeah.
It's not called the razor's edge for nothing.
I agree with that. And then the other thing that came up for me when you were talking is you talked about, or when you were reading, it talked about how you experience this, when this experience happens, it's this timeless, deathless thing. There was a description of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my experience is whenever I was expecting some certain thing that I could describe or put into words, that didn't happen. That basically it was like a surprise. And
Well, yes, absolutely, Tom. It is unexpected, spontaneous and automatic. But if you expect it, like you say, that's just a prescription for disappointment.
And
expect it specifically.
I would not use a word like eternal, although I wouldn't not use a word like eternal. I keep thinking of this. I think this is Buddhist saying, but said all statements are in some ways true, in some ways false, in some ways both true and false, in some ways neither true nor false, and in some ways meaningless, including this statement. And
yes, well, that all of that is absolutely true. Language is inherently inaccurate and approximate.
I would not use words like eternal, or I wouldn't use any words. I'd say this is a wonderful something that I don't understand.
You see, this is the difference between us and Vivekananda. Vivekananda, at least this is what we're told, has been to somewhere where we have not been. And that is this nirvikalpa state, in which he understands more thoroughly the nature of what it is that is experiencing this world. So I certainly can't disagree with you from a position of authority at all, Tom, about whether eternal or non-eternal is, or no word at all is appropriate. But I feel reluctant to argue personally from here, I feel reluctant to argue with Vivekananda about it.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah,
Please,
thanks for letting me talk.
Yes.
I agree with Tom 100%, but I view it with a caveat. It's kind of, once you handle one particle of life, like he mentioned before, there's a void for a short time, and then it's replaced by the next thing. But I see that as that's life. There are many particles to life, and we have to, some of us have to solve each particle from different points of view. And when you solve it from one point of view, it will appear again in another thing from another point of view. So I expect that. When that pops up, I'm not disappointed at all. I expect it to happen like that, and I should say, gee, here's another particle I can solve, And I jumped right on that. And so I see my lifespan is here. And I have to solve or resolve all of the particles of life in between that. And the more I can get solved in between those 2 points, then it reduces the possibility of me having to come back again.
And another voice of long experience in practice. You notice how differently they speak, but it adds up to there is definitely something there, and it is worth the effort. That's the real underlying message, is that it is worth the effort, and that it does get us to some place that is more, where there is more happiness, less misery, where there is more freedom and less limitation.
Yeah. And the more particles that are solved, the less the desire or to stop. Because once you stop, there's nothing happening.
Right. Exactly. That's why I say it. The process itself becomes attractive at a certain point, simply because you can sense something is happening, something wonderful, something even splendid, certainly something auspicious. Thank you, Robert. As I said, another voice of long experience in practice.
So I don't have long experience of practice, but having read Raj Yoga and read other books like Autobiography of Yogi and Himalayan Masters, I somehow feel that Raj, even though it's a long path, I somehow feel that it's probably the superhighway to heaven. And somehow also get the feeling in an engineering language that if there is any short circuit possible, then Raj Yoga probably is it.
And this is why Swami Prabhavananda would say, those of you who stick on, that is, continue with your practice, those are only a hair's breadth away. Now we have no way of knowing how long it will take to transverse that, to cross that hair's breadth. But we know it is not far, because otherwise we would not be persistent in our practice. And so very nicely said, Bhaskar. Thank you. Yes. Who knows? We do not know what will happen when we begin practicing. Why? Because we do not know the samskaras for prior practice in other lifetimes. We don't know when those will be activated. Any number of people have come over the years to talk, saying something happened to me. Suddenly there was this awakening of an awareness. And in this heart, what I hear is, yes, in this lifetime, now it continues what was begun in prior lifetimes. Thank you, Bhaskar.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
I don't have as much experience or as long as many of the other devotees here, but having read Swami Ashokananda's book, Soul's Journey to Its Destination, if what I understood is, because we are a part of the infinite, or we came from the infinite, deep within us we know that we are infinite, but the Maya veils it. So all this seeking that we do externally, or even via meditation, is to become or get to that infinite state. And meditation, either we can take birth after birth and experience the outside until we have exhausted, or we can go the meditation route and, like Bhaskarji said, superhighway. But until the infinite decides to absorb us, I suppose it will be temporary states of bliss during meditation.
Well, I think everything you said is true, dear. Certainly, Swami Ashokananda wrote from a place of deep and true knowledge. So these things that what we sometimes neglect to think about is these experiences we have during contemplation, concentration, and meditation. They inflect and transform our waking awareness as well. This is the measure of our spiritual progress. Our behavior changes. So as our behavior changes and we change toward the world changes toward us, the universe changes toward us, everything that we know being a reflection of a reality that is beyond the mind's grasp, but only becomes revealed to us when the mind becomes quiet. So then we have these experiences when the mind becomes quiet, and it changes the way we behave during the time when we're not in that quiet, or as you said, blissful state. Thank you, Swami.
Brother Shankara.
Yes, Frank.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Going on what she had just said, and I loved what she just said, what I've been finding for myself when I meditate is whenever I slip into try, I get into trouble. When I try to become peaceful, when I try to connect with when I try, it's almost like for me, I'll use the analogy of, it's like trying to get to the end of a rainbow. It keeps moving away.
Mm-hmm.
When I remind myself, and the optimum word there is when, because I often forget, but when I start meditating and I remind myself that there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to accomplish, there's no one to be, it's just recognizing what is already there and allowing that. And it takes, it's almost like the opposite of effort. It takes no effort. It takes releasing effort. So
you're speaking exactly like Yoda in Star Wars, Frank. Really, you are. You're speaking just exactly. Don't try, do. As he's talking to Luke Skywalker. Beautiful, beautiful what you said. Yes, just use the force, as Obi-Wan Kenobi said. But try, there is no try. Very well said, Frank. Anything more?
Brother Shankara, Amadas here.
Yes, Amadas.
As a neurophysiologist, there's a process that the brain goes through. It's ongoingly. It's called pruning. And it's part of what we now understand as neuroplasticity. And one of the things, as I understand it, I hope I can recreate this as it was explained to me, that when I meditate, the efficiency of whatever thoughts are happening or whatever brain activity is happening doesn't include all the vrittis of ordinary waking life when my eyes are open, so that the activity is reduced down to an efficiency that gets reinforced through neuroplasticity. And that's, as I understand it, part of the letting go. The old loops that aren't being used during meditation don't get reinforced, and the efficiency does, so that the old loops, much like renunciation, we don't have to let go. They just kind of fade away because they're not being reinforced.
Very good. You don't water them with your attention, they don't grow.
Exactly.
They go dormant.
Yes.
And neuroplasticity is an absolute fact, as you pointed out. So thank you for bringing all that up, Amadas. Each of these things that, are talked about in all these ancient scriptures, they are being the mechanisms, the processes by which they work are being discovered by modern science, whether it be in astrophysics or, as you said, neurophysiology.
Brother, this is Gaurav.
Yes, Gaurav.
Well, I have often meditate, and
Gaurav, we're losing you. Could you be closer to the microphone, please?
Yes, I'm saying I do often meditate, but I have had different experiences. I believe those are like very personal experiences that you generally have through meditation. And one of the common things that I feel is like I tend to feel very hot. My body temperature literally goes up. I don't know. Is it probably associated with the neuroplasticity?
It's called tapasya. It's called the Sanskrit. One of the translations is friction. Yes, it is one of the things that happens. You will literally sometimes perspire. This comes and goes. Later on, it'll be a very passing phase where you'll feel that, but then you'll sink below it, so to speak. And so there isn't the stimulation of the pranayama, of the pranamaya kosha that produces it. And so this is definitely a part of it, Gaurav. No two ways about it.
Yeah. So and even though it's perfectly cold outside, my temperature is up. I don't know.
Yes, well, that is a fact, and it's because as we go inward, we start with the Annamaya Kosha, and as we start to practice our evening meditation, what will come with thoughts of what am I going to have for dinner and so on and so forth, all the little conversations and chatting of the Annamaya Kosha. Then the Pranamaya Kosha. One of the Pranamaya Koshas, one of the responses is to make you feel hot, as you said. And there'll be a little chatty conversations about this activity and that activity. Then we sink below that into the Manamaya Kosha. And all of the concerns of the day, all of the things that someone said to us that are unpleasant and that we took issue with and so on, all of that chatter will appear. And we sink below that then into the Jnanamaya Kosha, and we are now getting quieter and quieter. Our breath is slowed, and there are fewer and fewer thoughts. And those thoughts that come are relevant, or if they're not relevant, they're not entangling. And then we sink below this into the Anandamaya Kosha, and this is where real deep concentration and meditation take place. And we have these experiences of fearlessness and knowing that that which we are sitting next to, so to speak, that Ananda, that consciousness itself. Yes. So all of that, this is why it's a process, and this is why Vivekananda says it's work.
It is work. It is work.
I have a very short visualization from Vivekananda. I'll read that. This is a very short one, and then any further discussion is welcome. But here's a visualization for meditation by Vivekananda. Think of a space in your heart, and in the midst of that space, think of a space in your heart, and in the midst of that space, think that a flame is burning. Think of that flame as your own soul, and inside the flame is another effulgent light, and that is the soul of your soul, God. So I'll read it again quickly. Think of a space in your heart, and in the midst of that space, think that a flame is burning. Think of that flame as your own soul, and that inside the flame is another effulgent light, and that is the soul of your soul, God. So any final thoughts or comments or questions from anyone?
Brother, on the...
Shankara, this is Viva.
Yeah, hang on just one moment. I think Rajiv had something, and then please, Rajiv.
No problem. When it comes to meditation, and there's this agitation caused by desire, and sometimes if that desire is for things like some sort of higher or greater knowledge, that can still cause some agitation, like you want to get that, and then you don't get that, and then you're sort of disappointed, and
that's why Swami Prabhavananda's second instruction is patience, Rajiv. We must not be impatient with the process. That's just, as you said, another form of mental agitation. Impatience is nothing more than another form. Even impatience for higher things is a disturbance of the mind. So patience is required. The process is going to take time, slowly and slowly. It can be accomplished in this lifetime. But you're absolutely right. Even that impatience for higher things is a disturbance in the mind.
And especially tactically, when it comes to like when we sit down for meditation or we want to get into that state, is it sort of recommend to drop all sorts of desires, like even desire for like knowledge or like for bhakti or whatever?
Just focus on the process, Raji. Don't be, if you're going to pray for things before you start meditating. This is part of the contemplation process. What is it that I'm about to do? And then pray for those things within the contemplation moments. Observe the mind, see what it is that you feel is lacking, and ask for that. Ask. All of the great teachers tell you. Jesus said it very specifically, ask and ye shall receive. Sri Ramakrishna said, practice just a little and someone will come forward to help you. So, yes, if there's a feeling of lack, a feeling of desire for these things, during the contemplation moments before you start the process of concentration and meditation, whatever form you use, pray for those things. And then just let your prayers go and go into the process and let the process take its course. Very good question.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Yes, and now Haima had something.
Okay.
Oh, did you have a follow-up, Rajiv?
No, brother, that was helpful.
Okay, Haima.
Hello, Brother Shankar. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. My benefit of meditation was going with full faith, no expectation, except for the divine presence in me, internal. I feel calmness to opposing forces. That is my biggest litmus test, that I continuously feel it. Even if you have a critics, even if I have somebody criticizing me, I'm calmer. That has manifested over continuous practice, perseverance, like you said. And I agree with all of them. We are all at different bases with meditation. So my experience being forbearance, it's like where there is hatred, let me soul out. That is St. Francis's quote.
Beautiful.
I can feel that.
Excellent, Haima.
Feel that.
Thank you. And these are the fruits of meditation. Yes,
And I may fall back occasionally for a few seconds.
Dear, you're breaking up. I don't know whether your connection isn't strong or whether you're too far from the microphone, but you're breaking up. Now we seem to have lost her entirely. Anything else from anyone?
Yes, brother. I was this Gaurav again. You said basically, if you ask and socially receive, I kind of meditate. The Gayatri mantra, and that itself is basically you're asking and you're receiving, kind of thing.
Yes.
And to me, like, more I meditate, my faith in God has become immense. It just increases every time I do it.
Excellent. Well, that is what you're asking for in the Gayatri, isn't it?
That is what I'm asking for, and it feels like no matter how challenging my life is, I'm still able to. I know there is somebody much bigger than all of us.
Well, it is you, Guru. It's not somebody. It is you yourself. It is that which is being revealed is not other than you. It is you yourself.
Yes.
It is the Atman.
Atman.
It is
within this cloth, which is my body.
Yes,
basically.
within the garment that was created by the Atman for its own purposes. Krishna describes this very eloquently in the Gita, how the Atman creates the body for its own purposes and then observes and experiences and thereby validates our experiences and by inference our life itself, our life as a jiva. So all of that is splendid. All of that is auspicious beyond description.
Yeah.
The more we sense that, the more we feel that, the more centered we become, the more fearless we become, the happier we become, and the freer we feel.
Yes, I almost feel that my whole being is in his hands.
Yes.
And I'm completely surrendered. Means the more I do it, the more I feel it is in its hand. Means whatever it is, means it's
Excellent.
reinforcing that, and that is passion of the Christ too.
Yes, oh yes, oh yes.
So it's marvelous.
That's why that wonderful Christian hymn, he's got the whole world in his hand.
Oh, totally.
Anything else from anyone, dears?
Something I first heard in 06 that Amma said that feels very timely right now. And she said that more dangerous to the world than nuclear weapons is a lack of spirituality.
Oh, yes.
She told us whatever it is that we do, just do more of that.
Yes. Absolutely, Amadas. Yes, this is where all of the great teachers come. And this is what the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was trying to do. He was trying to create this great wave of people practicing transcendental meditation that would soften this that we have seen emerge, this horrible state of being that the world has come to. And all of the great teachers have been, they all say, and then there's that give me 10 men who are stout-hearted men, and I'll soon give you 10,000 more. Of course, that's a military song, but it's just as true in a spiritual sense. Anything else from any of you sweet people?
Yeah, along those lines, it reminds me of what Martin Luther King had said, that man's spiritual progress is not kept pace with this technology. We have guided missiles and misguided men. And
Yes.
That's still true today.
Oh, amen, amen, amen.
But along the lines to what Jaime said, that some of our meditation stays with us as we go into our daily life. That meditation by Swami Vivekananda, even though it was 1 minute, it was quite powerful. I actually closed my eyes and did the visualization and felt great peace that seems to be staying with me for a while. Just the 1 minute meditation.
Well, it is. The Swami did not recommend it for no reason. He knew the power of it. And thank you for validating it, Ramadas. Thank you. Yes, it is. The Swami, and it was included at the end of this talk because it is powerful. And it is, somebody used the word short circuit before. This is a short circuit toward to visualization, to knowledge of, vidya of that divine presence within us. Anything else from anyone?
On MLK, brother, I think I feel I always, every time I read anything of his, I feel he was a very spiritually advanced soul. Means it just resonates from everything he says. There's a deep meaning to it all. Means
how could he have accomplished what he accomplished?
Yes.
And if
You got to have tremendous inner strength, which you get by being spiritualist.
Just as Gandhiji did, there was this great spiritual power. Where Sri Ramakrishna said, wherever you see a manifestation of that kind of power, you know the divine is present. Anything else, dears?
Yeah, something I'd like to share. I've noticed over the years that in the beginning, I thought that time was the most important ingredient in meditation. That if I sit there for 2 hours, it'll be more powerful than sitting there for 1 hour. But I have discovered over time that it's not time, it's the power that you exert or use or go for that really you could make accomplishments or have realizations in 2 seconds that could be miles ahead of 2 hours of meditation. It's how you focus. It's like focusing a camera. If you're taking a picture, you can take a picture of a large area, but there's no definition throughout that picture. Where if you limited it down, brought it down to a fine edge, and each item in that picture becomes so very clear that obvious is the word, that everything becomes so obvious. And the most of the realization that you have in meditation is when you really look at it in retrospect, it's that definition that's important.
Well, this is why Vivekananda said that what goes on in our contemplation, concentration, and meditation is a focusing of the mind and its powers until it becomes very one-pointed. And then it becomes there, in that state, there is a sense of timelessness and spacelessness. And as you said, something can occur in 2 seconds. You won't know it's 2 seconds, but something can occur in 2 seconds that sitting there and going mechanically through a process for a couple of hours will not achieve anything like that. It's, there's good reason to sit for 2 hours, and there's good reason to believe everything that you just said. Anything else? All right, dears. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So, any final thought from any of us? Anyone at all? All right, dears.
Hari Om Shankaraji.
Hari Om, dear.
I really enjoyed it. But one thing I noticed, sometimes even just to chant the mantra becomes like a disturbance, just to keep in silence. I feel a lot,
Yes. So the chanting the mantra is a way to get the mind to be quiet. When the mind gets to be quiet, there's no need to continue the mantra, although you'll find if you just are if you just go poking around, you'll find that the mantra continues somewhere up above, but you've sunk below it into the silence. So you're right, the silence is the goal. The great silence, capital G, capital S, great silence.
I was reminded of an event in one of the summers early in the Clinton administration. A group of either 500 or 1,000 experienced meditators descended on Washington, D.C. and meditated on peace for an entire month, and it dropped the crime rate 25%. There was no other explanation. Law enforcement didn't have an explanation. No government officials had an explanation for it.
Wow, that's amazing. That gets back to what the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was saying, that if people meditate, it could affect society.
They were Maharishi Mahesh Yogi meditators. Yes, they were. That was an exercise, an attempt by the Maharishi to make a point. And as Amadas pointed out, it did make the point. But like so much else, it just, the whirlwind of this closing years of the Kali Yuga is just, the whirlwind is too strong for these things to sustain. But as the Buddha said, be a lamp unto yourself. And, translated into Shakespeare, to thine own self be true, and it follows as the night the day, that thou canst not be false to anyone. When that's true, you are this bright, shining, radiant place, and don't think it doesn't make a difference. As both Ramana Maharshi and Carl Jung pointed out, each in their own language, but I'll use the Ramana Maharshi's. He said, the greatest gift that you can give to the world is to know who you truly are. And reason being, when you know who you truly are, there is nothing impeding your radiance, nothing limiting your radiance.
Brother Shankara, could you repeat that? To know your true.
To thine own self be true, and it follows as the night the day, that thou canst not be false to anyone. Now in Shakespeare it says, to any man. You cannot be false to any man. But that's because that's Polonius speaking to his son. I think it's Polonius. In any event, it's part of Hamlet. You can find the full speech there. But, and the Buddha said, be a lamp unto yourself. Yourself. Self. Anything else, dears?
Thank you, Brother Shankara, for letting me in. I was in the wrong place. I was in the Saturday. I don't know what mixed up the.
I don't know. All right, dear. You're right. You don't have to thank anybody.
I wanted to know how to know God. I was in that talk. I was trying to get in through that.
You don't know how welcome you are, dear.
So, thank you.
All right.
It's so beautiful to see you, be here.
Well, good to see you too. Anything else from anyone at the last minute? Okay. The next time, of course, we'll get together is tomorrow evening for the Love Poems from God reading and discussion group. We're just winding up our readings from Rabia. And so if you are of a mind to join us, there's that. And then on Tuesday evening, there is the study of Holy Mother's life. And on Wednesday, we're just winding up Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. And then Saturday, How to Know God by Swami Prabhupada, his interpretation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And next Sunday, we'll do an open forum on Raja Yoga, which will start with a guided meditation. Any last minute thought from anyone? Well, thank you all for being here. What a delight. See you again next time. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai.